There is a place in this world where the morning mist still clings to ancient cedar trees, where the sound of a single temple bell can carry across an entire valley without disturbance, where the air in summer smells of fresh rain on warm stone, and the cicadas fill the silence with their long, patient song. That place is Japan. And something is happening there this summer that no one quite expected. Not the crowds, not the technology, not even the famous cherry blossoms. Those come and go each spring like a soft promise renewed. No, what is drawing the world's attention to Japan in the summer of 2026 is something quieter, something more personal, something that seems to reach across languages and borders and touch people somewhere very deep inside. In this film, we are going to slow down. We are going to breathe. We are going to walk through 10 quiet, extraordinary things that are making Japan go viral right now. Not because they are loud or spectacular, but because in a world that never seems to stop moving, they are wonderfully, gently, still. So let us begin. Somewhere in the mountains of Nagano Prefecture, there is a small village that sits beside a river so clear you can count every stone on the bottom. The trees here are old. Some of them were saplings when samurais still walked the roads below them. The village itself has perhaps 300 residents, maybe fewer. There is one general store, one small shrine tucked behind a wooden gate draped in moss, a handful of traditional farmhouses with thick thatched roofs that curve gently toward the sky like sleeping animals. This village, and dozens like it scattered across Japan's rural heartland, has become, quite unexpectedly, one of the most talked about destinations on social media this summer. Not because anything dramatic happened there, but because someone filmed it. A young traveler from outside Japan walked through this village one evening in late June and simply pointed their camera at what was in front of them. The light was golden. The river murmured just off screen. An elderly woman was hanging laundry on a wooden rack outside her home, moving slowly and without hurry, as though she had all the time in the world. A cat watched from a low stone wall. Somewhere inside a house, a radio played something gentle and old. The video was quiet. Almost nothing happened. And yet, within 3 days, it had been viewed more than 40 million times. People from across the world left comments saying they had watched it over and over, that it had made them cry, though they couldn't explain exactly why. That something about it felt like a memory of a place they had never actually been. This is the first reason Japan is going viral this summer, not because of something new, but because of something ancient and unhurried that the rest of the world seems to be desperately craving. Japan's rural villages, its Satoyama landscape, as they are called, are places where the pace of life was never replaced by modernity, where the relationship between people and the land was never entirely severed, where a summer evening still looks and feels the way summer evenings must have felt 100 years ago. And something about seeing that, truly seeing, has moved people in a way that very few things can. Japan has over 700 designated traditional villages. Many of them are quietly disappearing as younger generations move to city. But this summer, something is shifting. Visitors are arriving, not in buses with itineraries, but on foot, alone or in pairs, drawn by videos and photographs and a feeling they can't quite name. They come and they sit by the river, and they let the silence do what silence does. Let us travel now, slowly, south and west, past rice paddies that stretch like green mirrors, reflecting the pale summer sky, past roadside vending machines glowing softly in the late afternoon heat, past train stations where the schedule board clicks quietly, and a recorded voice announces the next departure, in tones that are almost musical. We arrive at the sea. Japan's coastline is one of the longest in the world. Much of it is wild and unharbored, rocky coves where fishing boats sway gently at their moorings, sandy beaches shadowed by pine trees, bent permanently landward by decades of ocean wind, cliffs where the Pacific crashes white and cold against dark volcanic rock. And this summer, Japan's coastline is the second thing drawing the world's gaze. Not the famous beaches, not the tourist spots, but the small fishing ports, the ones that still wake before dawn, where the boats go out in the dark and return in the early morning light with their hulls low in the water, where the fish are unloaded by hand onto wooden docks and sorted with practiced, quiet efficiency, where the fishermen sit afterward and drink tea from small cups and say very little, because they are tired in the way that is also deeply satisfying. Someone began filming these mornings, a series of short, wordless videos, each one just 2 or 3 minutes long, following a single boat from the harbor into open water and back again. The light in them is extraordinary, that particular gray-blue of a Japanese coastal dawn, the way the mist sits flat on the water, the way the wake spreads slowly behind the boat and then fades. These films have now been watched, collectively, several 100 million times. There is a word in Japanese, natsukashi, that is often translated as nostalgic, but that doesn't quite capture it. Natsukashi is a feeling for something that you miss, even if you never experienced it yourself, a longing for a simpler time, a warmth for something that is passing. These fishing port videos carry that feeling in every frame, and people across the world who have never stood on a Japanese dock in their lives feel it. They are watching Japan's coastline and feeling natsukashi for a life they never lived, and that is something remarkable. Now let us consider something that seems, on the surface, entirely ordinary. Rain. Japan in summer is a season of rain, not the gray, continuous drizzle of northern climates, but the dramatic, generous, warm rains of the rainy season. Tsuyu, as the Japanese call it, the plum rains that arrive in June and linger into July, soaking the islands from south to north. And then later, in August, the sudden afternoon thunderstorms that build over the mountains and release themselves in long, heavy curtains of water that cool the streets within minutes. Japan knows how to live with rain. It has always known this. There are umbrellas available for borrowing at convenience stores. There are covered shopping streets, shotengai, where the roof extends above you for a kilometer or more, and the rain becomes background music. There are casa stands at train stations. There are small drainage rivers running alongside almost every road, moving the water efficiently and quietly away. But this summer, it is not the infrastructure of rain that people are captivated by. It is the aesthetic of it. A photographer in Kyoto began posting a daily photograph, always taken on rainy days, always featuring the same narrow lane in the old Gion district, the cobblestones wet and reflective, the lanterns of the tea houses catching the gray light and turning it amber, though occasional figure in a dark umbrella moving through the frame, the reflections on the ground so perfect they seem like a second world beneath the first. The series is called simply Amy Rain, and it has become one of the most followed photography projects in the world this year. What strikes people is not that the photographs are technically perfect, though they are. What strikes people is the mood they carry, the sense that in Japan, rain is not an inconvenience to be tolerated, but a season to be experienced. That the Japanese word shikotsuyoku, a love of rain, is not just a word, but a living practice. Rain in Japan smells different in summer. It smells of hot stone cooling, of woods swelling in the humidity, of the dark earth of temple gardens drinking deeply. It sounds different too, the way it falls through bamboo groves, the way it hits the stretched paper of a traditional lantern, the way it runs along the curved tiles of a temple roof and falls in a curtain from the eave's edge. People are watching these photographs and these videos and remembering something they may have forgotten, that rain can be beautiful. That stillness in a downpour can be one of the most peaceful feelings a body can hold. We move now to a very different kind of Japan. Not the ancient one, not the coastal one, not the rainy one, but the green one. Japan is, to a degree that surprises many people, a deeply forested country. Nearly 70% of the land is covered in trees. Mountains rise in the center of most of the main islands, and from the valleys below, in summer, they appear as enormous green walls, dark and dense and ancient, disappearing into cloud. Inside those forests, Japan has something called Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, the practice of walking slowly among trees, breathing deeply, letting the atmosphere of the forest enter the body through every sense. It is not hiking in the Western sense, not a goal-oriented march toward a summit. It is wandering, pausing, sitting on a mossy log and doing nothing in particular. Japanese doctors began researching the health effects of Shinrin-yoku several decades ago and found remarkable things. Time spent in forests lowered blood pressure and cortisol levels. It strengthened the immune system. It reduced anxiety and improved sleep. The trees, it turned out, were releasing compounds into the air, phytoncides, that the human body responded to in deeply positive way. This summer, a documentary series on this practice has become one of the most watched nature programs in the world, shot entirely inside Japan's forests, in the cedar groves of Yakushima Island, in the beech forests of the Shirakami Mountains, in the cryptomeria forests of Nikko. It follows ordinary people as they walk and breathe and rest among the trees. There is very little narration. There is only the sound of the forest, wind in high branches, the drip of water from leaf to leaf after rain, the distant call of a bush warbler, the deep silence beneath it all that is not really silence at all, but the sound of something living at a speed we cannot see. Yakushima, the island to the south of Kyushu, is the place that stops people cold. Its trees are ancient beyond comprehension. The Jomonsugi cedar, the oldest tree on the island, possibly the oldest living tree in Japan, is believed to be somewhere between 2,000 and 7,000 years old. It stands in a grove so dense and moss-covered and humming with life that visitors often cry when they see it, not from sadness, just from the sheer weight of time and continuity that it represents. The series lingers on this tree for nearly 10 minutes without speaking, and no one watching has complained that it is too long. There is a quieter story unfolding this summer in Japan, and it begins in the kitchen. Japan's relationship with food is something that goes far beyond nourishment. It is philosophy. It is art. It is a daily practice of attention and respect. The concept of shun, eating what is in season, at the exact moment it reaches its peak, means that a Japanese kitchen in July is a completely different place than a Japanese kitchen in October. Different vegetable, different fish, different preparation, different moods. And this summer, something small and very beautiful began happening. An elderly woman in Fukuoka Prefecture, she is in her late 70s, she lives alone, she has been cooking since she was a child, began filming herself in her kitchen, not for any audience, just to document the recipes she feared her grandchildren might never learn. She filmed herself making tsunamono, the delicate vinegared cucumber dish of summer. She filmed her hands pressing tofu in cheesecloth. She filmed the precise way she arranged a bento box. Not for perfection, she explained gently, but out of love, because the person who eats what you cook with care will feel that care, even without knowing it. Her granddaughter posted the videos online without asking her. She thought maybe a few hundred people would see them. This summer, her grandmother has 12 million followers. People watch these videos and say they feel as though they are sitting in someone's kitchen being taught something that mattered. There is no performance in them, no backdrop, no ring light, just an old woman and her hand and her knowledge and the food of a Japanese summer, the sound of a knife on a wooden board, the sizzle of sesame oil in a cast iron pan, the soft thud of a perfectly ripe peach placed on the counter. Food television has been loud for so long. These videos are a reminder that the most profound cooking has always been quiet, patient, made with everything and performed for nothing. Let us pause for a moment on the Shinkansen, the bullet train. It moves so smoothly, so silently, that first-time passengers often look out the UED window and feel a gentle disorientation. The landscape passing at 300 kilometers per hour, but the cabin as still as a reading room. Mount Fuji appears in the window if you are lucky, and the sky is clear, perfectly cone-shaped, covered in summer snow at its peak, impossibly large, impossibly close, and then gone. Japan's railway network is, in many ways, the country's circulatory system. It runs on time to a degree that seems almost supernatural. A train that is 60 seconds late is considered delayed, and a formal apology will be issued. Passengers queue in the exact spots marked on the platform. They do not speak on the phone inside the carriage. They lower their voices. They allow the ride to be what it is, a shared, respectful piece of time. This summer, a simple account posting videos from train windows has become one of the most followed travel accounts in the world. Every video is the same: a window seat, the view outside, no narration, no commentary, just Japan passing. The dense apartment blocks giving way to suburb giving way to rice fields giving way to mountains giving way to sea. Sometimes a rice farmer waves at the passing train from below. Sometimes a child presses their face to a crossing barrier and watches it thunder past. Sometimes clouds move quickly overhead and their shadows race across the valley below. These videos are being watched at night, before sleep, by millions of people around the world. They have been described as the most effective anxiety medication no one prescribed. They are, in a way, a meditation on movement and stillness, the world moving past the window while the viewer sits utterly still. Japan's trains are not a new thing. They have been running on time for decades. But something about being reminded of them now, in this summer, in this year, has made people feel a particular kind of gratitude for things that work quietly and reliably and without fuss, for systems built with care, for the simple beauty of arriving exactly when you said you would. In the deep south of Japan, on the island of Kyushu, there are hot springs. Onsen are older than recorded Japanese history. They spring from the volcanic earth in hundreds of locations across the country, in the mountains, on the coasts, in the middle of a city, beside rivers, at the edges of forests. The water is rich with minerals. It smells faintly of sulfur in some places, clean and tasteless in others. It is always exactly hot enough. The ritual of the onsen bath is precise and deeply physical. You clean your body first, thoroughly, at the low shower stations before entering the water. You lower yourself slowly into the heat. You do not splash. You do not speak loud. You let the water do what the water has always done. Draw the tension from your muscles. Open your pores. Soften everything that has become rigid. In Beppu, in Kyushu, the hot spring steam rises from the ground across the entire city. Walking through Beppu on a cool morning is like walking through a dream. Steam drifting up from drains, from roadside vents, from between the cobblestones, as though the city is exhaling. The famous Jigoku, the hells of Beppu, they are called, are pools of boiling, mineral-stained water. One the color of deep cobalt, one the red of old iron, one gray and bubbling. Not for bathing, these, only for watching, only for reminding yourself that the earth is alive beneath you. This summer, the onsen became the subject of one of the most shared wellness discussions happening online. Not because it is new, onsen culture has been written about for years, but because, in a summer when collective exhaustion seems to have reached some kind of peak, the image of simply lowering yourself into very hot water and doing absolutely nothing has become a fantasy for enormous numbers of people. In Yufuin, the small, atmospheric onsen town in the mountains of Oita Prefecture, mist drifts through the valley each morning like a slow river running above the ground. Ryokan, guest houses with deep wooden bathtubs, sit beside stream. Breakfast is served on low lacquered trays. Warm rice, miso soup with silken tofu, pickled vegetables in small ceramic dishes, a single, perfect, soft-boiled egg. You eat slowly. You are not in a hurry. You have nowhere to be. This image, the mist, the water, the wooden tray, the warm cup of tea afterward, has become something close to a collective dream this summer. And Japan, with its centuries of onsen culture, is suddenly speaking directly to a world that desperately needs to slow down and be warm. Let us visit a temple, not the famous one, not Fushimi Inari, with its thousands of orange gates, beautiful as it is, crowded as it now often becomes. Let us find a smaller one that sits on the edge of a cedar forest, at the top of a long flight of stone steps, each step worn smooth and slightly uneven by centuries of feet. One where the moss on the stone lanterns is so thick and green it seems almost to glow. One where the only sound is the wind through the trees above and, occasionally, the distant strike of a wooden prayer drum. Japan has more than 80,000 temples and shrines. Many of them are old beyond easy imagining. Their timbers have been replaced, generation after generation, using the same wood and the same joinery and the same pattern, so that the building is simultaneously ancient and perpetually renewed. A different philosophy of age than the Western one, which tends to value what survives unchanged. This summer, a simple practice has gone quietly, persistently viral. People visiting a single temple, sitting in its gardens for an hour, and then leaving. No photographs, no itinerary, just the sitting. A Japanese concept called ma, often translated as negative space or pause or interval, has been explained and re-explained this summer in thousands of small videos and essays and quiet conversation. Ma is the space between things, the silence between musical notes, the gap between a question and an answer, the empty part of the room, the stillness inside the garden. In Japanese aesthetics, Ma is not empty, it is full. It is where the meaning lives. Western culture tends to fill spaces, to add more sound, more furniture, more word, more content. The concept of Ma proposes the radical opposite, that what you choose not to fill is as important, perhaps more important, than what you do. Temple gardens in Japan are designed around Ma, a single smooth rock surrounded by raked gravel, a stone lantern placed precisely so that it anchors a view without competing with, a pond with a single lotus, a doorway through which you see only sky. People are sitting in these gardens this summer and feeling something difficult to name. Relief, perhaps permission to stop. A sense that the world does not actually require constant action from, that sitting very still in a beautiful and quiet place is not lazy, it is a practice. It is, some are beginning to say, necessary. Now, and this is one of the gentler surprises of this summer, let us talk about paper. Japan has been making paper for more than 1,300 years. Washi, traditional Japanese paper, is made from the inner bark of specific trees. The kozo, the mitsumata, the gampi, beaten and dissolved in water, spread in thin layers on wooden screens, and dried slowly in the open air. The result is paper that is both strong and delicate, that carries the texture of plant fibers within it, that seems almost alive when held up to light. In a small town in Echizen, in Fukui Prefecture, a town that has been making washi for 15 centuries, a master papermaker filmed himself working. The whole process, start to finish, from stripping bark to lifting the finished sheet from its screen, 4 days to complete. He posted the video simply and without comment. It has been watched 200 million times. People watching the video describe it as one of the most calming, most satisfying things they have ever seen. The deliberate movement, the respect for the material, the profound knowledge in the hands of someone who has done this for 50 years, the sense of a lineage stretching backward into centuries of practice. Japan has classified many of its traditional craftspeople as ningen kokuho, living national treasures, papermaker, lacquerware artists, no mask carver, textile weaver, potter families who have worked the same clay from the same hills for 20 generations. These designations exist because the Japanese government recognized decades ago that certain forms of knowledge are as irreplaceable as physical monuments, that what lives in a person's hands and eyes can be lost forever when that person is gone. This summer, the world seems to have arrived at a similar recognition, and it is watching Japan's living treasures with something that looks very much like reverence. There is a Japanese word, takumi, that means artisan, but carries within it the deeper sense of a person who has devoted themselves so completely to a single craft that the craft has become a form of wisdom. A takumi does not merely make things, they embody something. Watching these craftspeople work is not entertainment. It is, many say, closer to prayer. We should speak, now, of light. Japanese summer light has a particular quality, especially in late afternoon, when the sun moves lower and the air, heavy with humidity, seems to hold the light and diffuse it. The world turns golden and slightly hazy. The cicadas reach their peak volume, and then gradually, as the evening comes, begin to fade. The first lanterns of the evening appear, glowing amber in the dusk, and in Japan's cities and towns and villages, summer brings the festival. Matsuri. There is no single English word that captures what Matsuri means. Festival comes close, but it is too narrow. A Matsuri is a community gathering that has both spiritual and social dimension. A time when the ordinary and the sacred overlap. When the street becomes a place of ceremony without ceasing to be a street. In summer, across Japan, smaller Matsuri happen almost every week. Local ones, not the famous national festivals, but the neighborhood ones, the ones that happen on a single evening in a single district, where paper lanterns are strung between utility poles and a food stall sells grilled corn, and another sells kakigori, the shaved ice heaped with bright syrups, and an old man plays a slow melody on a shamisen in a corner of the shrine precinct, and no one is really listening, but the music sits in the evening air like a gentle benediction. Children wear yukata, light cotton summer kimono, and run with sparklers that hiss and glow and leave trails of silver in the soft dark. Grandparents sit on folding chairs and watch everything with that particular expression that is neither fully happy nor fully sad, that contains the knowledge of time passing within it. These small matsuri have been the subject of an enormous number of photographs and films this summer. Not the grand ones, the famous Awa Odori or the Gion Matsuri, but the anonymous one, the ones in neighborhoods the maps don't name, the ones that will happen again next year in exactly the same way as they have happened for 100 and 200 years. People are watching these videos and saying, I want to be there, not for the spectacle, for the feeling, for the sense of a community gathered peacefully around something old and shared. And now, the last of our 10 reasons, the quietest of all. This summer, the Japanese practice of wabi-sabi has entered the conversation of the world in a way it never quite has before. Wabi-sabi is not a simple concept, and it has been oversimplified many times in Western writing, reduced to appreciating imperfection, a phrase that captures perhaps 10% of what it actually means. Wabi originally referred to the loneliness of living outside society, the roughness of a life close to nature, the spare beauty of poverty, the particular aesthetic of things that are plain and impermanent. Sabi referred to the beauty that comes with age, with use, with the patina of time. Together, wabi-sabi is a worldview that finds its deepest beauty, not in the perfect, the new, or the lasting, but in the imperfect, the worn, and the transient. A cracked tea bowl repaired with gold, a moss-covered stone, the rust along the hinge of an old wooden gate, the way summer light looks on a wall that has not been painted in 30 years, the sound of rain on clay tiles. Japan has practiced wabi-sabi for centuries. It is in the tea ceremony, in the garden, in the way. An old pottery master will prize a piece more for the accidental mark left by the kiln than for any deliberate perfection. In the architecture of certain very old temple, where the deliberate asymmetry of the design suggests that completeness and permanence are not goals, but illusion. This summer, something shifted in the global conversation about beauty. There has been a slow, collective turning away from the pursuit of the perfect image, the flawless, the filtered, the curated, and towards something rougher, quiet, more honest, a longing for the real, for the worn, for the thing that shows its age without apology. Japan's aesthetic tradition suddenly spoke to that longing with a clarity and depth that nothing else could match. A filmmaker spent 3 months walking through rural Japan, documenting specifically the things that were aging, cracked, faded, and imperfect. Old signage with peeling paint, empty farmhouses whose sliding paper doors had turned translucent with years of light, ceramic cups with chips along their rims that had been in families for generations, garden where the stone lanterns had grown their beards of moss so thickly that their original shape was barely visible beneath. The film is called Ma to Naru, Becoming Space, and it has been shown in cinemas across 30 countries. In the film, there is a sequence filmed in late summer near the end of the season when the cicada's song has already begun to thin. A woman in her 90s is sitting in the engawa of her old farmhouse, the wide wooden veranda that runs along the edge of a traditional home, open to the garden. She is doing nothing. Her hands are folded in her lap. Her eyes are looking at the garden, which is old and imperfect, and entirely beautiful. She sits for several minutes. The camera does not move. The cicadas sing. The light moves slowly across the engawa. Then she says, in a voice so quiet you must lean in to hear it, "It is enough. It is enough." Those 3 words in that quiet film, on that old engawa, have been shared and quoted and written down by people in dozens of languages this summer. They have appeared painted on walls, embroidered on cloth, written at the ends of letters. It is enough. This is what Japan is offering the world this summer. Not spectacle, not speed, not the shock of the new. Something older. The mist on the mountain river. The old woman hanging her laundry without hurry. The fisherman on his boat before dawn, moving through still water. The forest, breathing around the ancient tree. The paper lifting slowly from the screen. The lantern swinging in the evening above the street, where children run with sparklers. The understanding, calm and undefended, that beauty does not require perfection. That time does not require rushing. That a life, like a cracked tea bowl repaired with gold, can be more beautiful for what it has broken and survived. Japan has always known that. It has written it into its art and its gardens and its ceremonies for centuries. But sometimes it takes the rest of the world a long moment to arrive at what has been quietly waiting. This summer, the world arrived, and Japan, as it has always done, patiently, gently, without fanfare, held the door open. As our journey through this summer ends, let us return one final time to that small village in Nagano. The river is still running. The cicadas are still singing, though in the evenings now they are fewer, a little quieter, a sign that the season is beginning to turn. The old woman has brought her laundry in. The cat on the stone wall has moved. Somewhere, a window is lit with warm light. Japan will still be here when this summer ends. The temples will still stand. The forests will still breathe. The onsen will still steam in the morning cold, which will come sooner now. The mountain air beginning to carry the first hint of autumn. And the rice, golden in the paddies, will bend under its own fullness in September, ready for the harvest. Farmers will walk between the rows and touch the stalk, feeling for readiness, the same way their grandparents did, and their grandparents before them, reaching back in a long, unbroken chain of attention to the land. This is, perhaps, the deepest thing Japan is sharing with the world this summer. Not a trend, not a moment, a continuity, a proof that it is possible to move slowly through the world and still arrive somewhere meaningful, that it is possible to hold on to beauty without grasping it, that the most important things are patient. The river keeps running in Nagano. The paper is still drying in Echizen. The tree in Yakushima stands in its forest, as it has stood for 2,000 years, breathing through its enormous roots, touching something far beneath the ground that we may never fully understand. And somewhere in a small house at the edge of a garden, a woman sits on an old wooden veranda in the last of the afternoon light, hands folded, looking at nothing in particular, knowing that it is enough, that it has always been enough. End of script.